I came here in 1958. I was 20 years old. The idea of dedicating your whole life to prayer, to God, that's what appealed to me. I came here to look it over, liked it, came back a few months later and joined. I've been here ever since. The rhythm of the life is based on communal prayer, prayer of the heart, manual labor, study, Lectio Divina, and community life. It's sort of a process of coming to, through self-knowledge, coming to know that you are made in the image and likeness of God, and that God dwells within you, and that's where your self-worth comes from. Monastic life started very early in the church, probably in the 3rd century. Saint Benedict wrote his rule, say, 1,500 years ago, and he's called the father of Western monks. His rule is probably the most important monastic rule in the West, and that's the rule we follow. The monk's life is really a life of balance. It's very difficult to join and all of a sudden start living like a monk, but that's what we asked our young people to do who joined. They start getting up at 3:15 in the morning, they start fasting, they start being vegetarians, and they start learning silence, they start learning how to meditate. To be mindful of God is one of the practices we take with us all day long. They say the closer you get to God, the closer you get to everybody, because everyone exists in God. We are praying and hoping that we're being conformed to the way Christ lived on earth, and that's how we feel we're called to live. One of our ideals is to live by the work of our hands, not to live on donations. We've been farming here since 1849. About 10 years ago, it started changing. First of all, we didn't have enough monks to work on the farm. We had to hire more people. And secondly, there's a world crisis in agriculture, I think. The prices are way down. We had to look for an alternate source of income. We realized we have 1,100 acres of woodland here at the monastery. And then we came up with the idea of the caskets.
This is Brother Tobias from Trappist Caskets.
We realized that certain people admire the simplicity of our way that we deal with death. And then we said, well, maybe let's provide them with a simple wooden casket.
Sandpaper. To work with this oak.
How to start up a business. That's what we really did. It's starting a new business, and we had no skill on how to do that. We got some help, and the first thing they told us was, you got a winner here, that people are looking for very simple ways to be buried.
Would you like a cross engraved on the lid, Herbert?
Just then Sam came along, who had a little business of his own making caskets, and he said he's gone as far as he can because no one knows Sam as far as nationwide or even Midwest. But we have a name, a Trappist name.
Okay, it's all ready to go. I knew immediately when our conversation began that the Trappists could take this business much farther than I could have. I'm their general manager. I work for the monks, and it can be sometimes a complicated role to play in a Trappist monastery because I have to have a leg in, I'm straddling two worlds, the commercial world and the monastic world. So it's two different cultures, and you're trying to satisfy the demands of both cultures, and sometimes it's a little bit of a juggling act. Their preeminent interest is their interior life. Therefore, at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, if I were here alone and a casket sale came in and I needed help, it'd be difficult for me to ask a monk because I know that their preference and their loyalty is to their prayer life, not to their commercial life. So that's been a challenge. I mean, we've been able to overcome that with a structure that makes sense for us. But these monks are not commercial people. They're of a culture that doesn't value the commercial success the way the secular world does.
St. Benedict says, ora et labora, a Latin term for pray and work. And the day is divided 50-50. Half a day is spent in prayer, half a day is spent in labor. But the labor part can also be a prayer, especially if you're mindful of God. I like to be by myself. Out here, I can see God in the forest very readily, in the sky, and the nasty days when it's wind's blowing and the snow is flying, then you can really see God's power and His majesty. If you look a little bit back and you see that red oak in there, that'll be a prime casket log in there. And probably that log alone in there would probably make about four and a half caskets. I've been here about 50 years now, and most of these younger trees in here, they were planted by me. And it's kind of nice seeing them grow up.
The prayer life just flows into the work life, it seems to me. When I find frustrating situations, then Lord help me. Oh darn! The bottom one is still in. The carpenter shop and the casket industry, they're great places for growing spiritually. God is always there. You can always turn to Him to help you do the thing you're supposed to do, whether it's putting the casket together properly or relating to the other people there properly, not losing your temper and things like that. And that's the way you grow into a Christ-like person.
Financial concerns or their economic concerns are not a priority. I mean, they would probably give most caskets away if it weren't for somebody like me managing the business. You have to acknowledge what their goals are and design the business around that.
We're looking to make our living, and to make our living in a good way. As it turns out, then we touch hundreds and thousands of people, and that's. I think there's just a lot of spiritual energy in that touching, you know, that outreach.
One of the ways we're really counterculture, I think, is by keeping death before our eyes daily, as the rule of St. Benedict says, and long for eternal life with all the longing of your soul.
If anyone wishes to be first, he shall be the last of all and servant of all.
I'm delighted, actually, that we have found this product to sell to the public, because it's a service to the public in many ways. People really are looking for some consolation when a loved one dies. And to know that they have a casket made by a monk who wants to be a spiritual person means a lot to them.